Okay, welcome everybody. I think we are live. My name is Danielle Sutton and I'm the content animator with Plus Acumen. And we are thrilled to welcome you to today's Rapid Innovation Lab. And this is part one of the Acumen Unilever Social Innovation Challenge on Plastics. And so we are gathered here for the next 2 hours to focus on generating some great ideas for Natasha and Gary, who are working on plastic waste management, and we're focusing on the rural side of things because they have a lot of experience working in the urban communities already, and we want to get some new ideas rolling. And so we're excited for you guys to learn from each other and from Natasha and Gary. We're going to do a Q&A here to kick things off. You guys have been flooding the inbox and the Slack channels with questions, and so we're going to cover what we can. We won't have time to answer every single question, but we want to hit on the major pieces so that you guys have what you need to get started and start generating amazing ideas. So I want to welcome Natasha Zarine and Gary Marashi for this Q&A. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yes, this is great. Natasha is an Acumen Fellow, and Natasha and Gary are both co-founders of the Center for Applied Research and People's Management, or CARPE for short, and also the Civic Response Team in Aurangabad, India. So it's a bit late on a Saturday night for you guys, so thanks for joining.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. Yeah.
Fabulous. So we shared a lot of information in the challenge brief ahead of time. So for everybody watching, if you're feeling like there's still questions that are unanswered, you might find the answer in the brief. But like I said, we'll hit on some of the questions that were coming in from the audience, from all the participants. And for the next 25 minutes in this live Q&A, we'll cover what we can, and then you can go forward and keep going. One thing I want to mention is this is part one of the challenge, and there is a part two. So there's about a week to apply if you're interested in the part two of the challenge, which is a 7-week social enterprise incubator, and that starts on March 19th. But today we're focused fully on CARPE and solving this challenge, or generating some ideas for plastic waste in rural schools and rural communities. So let's get started. I think I covered all the intros. Hoping that you ladies can just touch on setting the stage for everybody and why you proposed this specific challenge as a next step for your work, and what are the gaps that you're hoping to fill with these ideas, and what is the need and opportunity for this next phase of work?
Sure. So, as you introduced us, we've been working in urban areas in and around Aurangabad in Maharashtra state. And in fact, our systems are also being implemented in Buenos Aires in Argentina and in Bali. So we know how to transform, this linear collection of mixed waste and dumping of mixed waste system that exists in urban areas to a more circular economy, collection of segregated waste at source, effective and efficient collection systems, proper treatment of organics, maximized recycling of recyclables, even implementing EPR for handling the reject waste. And that's something we do with HUL, Unilever in India. So we've worked out the system to handle waste in urban areas. And now we've been approached by the government to take these solutions to the rural area around Aurangabad, particularly to begin with, and then other districts as well. So now this poses its own challenge, and it's a new thing for us, which is why we decided to put this challenge out for this innovation lab. The idea is to start best practices in solid waste management, which includes segregation of waste at source. This is something we've realized through our experience, and I think the world and regulation and everything focuses on segregation of waste at source. So how to implement this across multiple villages and gram panchayats in the district. Urban areas are, as you know, clusters of human populations living closely together with with budgets and funding and management systems that are a little bit different from scattered rural areas. So now we have to find a way to get villages. There are 840 villages in the Aurangabad district itself. So to get them to all segregate waste at source and manage it effectively within their village, and maybe we have a separate collection system. So there's a larger piece. So how do we get the message out to every village, and how do we do it fast? That's the question. And one of the channels that we have explored has been through schools, because we've worked with schools before, and maybe Gauri can tell you about this. We've worked with schools and for design thinking and these training programs, and we've reached 2,600 schools before in a short period of time. So we know that we can reach out to schools. Just how do we do it and what do we do? That's what we need to discuss today. I hope that answers.
Yeah, and briefly, just to add on to that, so the design thinking toolkit that we've taken to all these schools basically asks students to identify a challenge around them and, using a simple design thinking framework, solve it. And we've seen that of the 2,100 schools that we've trained, and a lot of them that participated, we had about 70% who worked on solid waste and sanitation related issues. That was what they chose for, as the problem that they would like to solve in their communities. So there is the push from the government, but I think also a pull from the communities to implement effective solid waste systems in the rural areas.
Yes.
That's great. Can you guys speak a little bit about the government connection and the partnership there? Because we did get quite a few questions about what is their current responsibility. I know you guys partner with them on some of the urban projects as well. So what is their willingness and what is their role on the rural side?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the regulations have been in place since the year 2000 for segregation of waste at source, doorstep collection, integration of waste pickers, effective treatment, etc. But now we're of course in 2019, and we're just starting out in rural areas. Urban areas, maybe 2-3 years ago, there was a push, and so things have started moving. But in rural areas, so far the focus has been on toilets and washing and sanitation, not so much on solid waste. So it's really a blank slate. We're starting from scratch in many ways. As far as regulations go, we have the regulations to back the actions that we need to take. So yeah, and the government, we work closely with the government. The schools are government schools. The villages are managed and controlled by local bodies called gram panchayats, which then report into the Zilla Parishad, the CEO, who then reports into the divisional commissioner. And both the Zilla Parishad and the divisional commissioner are completely on board and want this program to be executed, as is the state government. So the government's on board.
Excellent. That's great because, like I said, people had questions around just the context there of that relationship and the willingness and where everybody's at. So in terms of the schools, let's talk more about that and what the existing state is in terms of, are there programs about recycling or waste management in schools already? Are teachers, you mentioned that students are interested in this, so there's some demand from the community, and what's already happening? What is there to build off in the schools? And also, let's talk a little bit about how you see the schools being that link into the community and what that could mean for how this rolls out.
Sure. Gauri, do you want to take this? Or should I? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the work that we've done with the schools so far, they've been designing systems for themselves. So just to manage the waste within the school. A lot of them have midday meals, which means that a lot of food comes into the schools, which is distributed among the students, and the leftover food and papers and plastics that are generated within the school is what they're looking to treat. But like we were saying, these are all government schools, and the network and the ability to get messages across and run programs is tremendous. So the programs that we've run with them before, we've had we've had a great partnership in terms of getting a lot of teachers and headmasters in one place at one time, very quickly organized. So in terms of information flow, we think there's a strong case for information about best practices in waste management being delivered into village rural communities through schools. And in terms of solid waste management systems, it really depends. Some of the larger villages may have vehicles and labor dedicated to solid waste management. And this is the big difference between rural and urban areas. Urban areas, almost everywhere, have a solid waste management department that has its own equipment and labor. But in the rural areas, some villages may have it, but largely there's not the infrastructure for solid waste management at the individual level of each village.
Yeah. And so with schools, what they generally do is the waste that's collected is either dumped, wherever the village dumps its waste, or in a nali,
Open drain.
sewer. Yeah, open drain. Now I think in Marathi. So an open drain, or it is burnt. In fact, most schools and most people who burn their waste say it very proudly, that we manage our waste, we take the effort of burning it. So this is generally the three kinds of ways of waste disposal happening in schools and in most villages. Because as we said, there's been no systemic change in the way waste is to be managed in rural areas. So this is the current situation. Through these training programs, or whatever it is that we design, if we can get school teachers to understand waste management and best practices, implement them in their schools, and have a way of having that knowledge seep into the rest of the community, either through a competition, a zero waste hero competition where children bring their plastics to school and then we weigh them, and there's a story around it and they have to apply it to a larger competition. I don't know, this is what we have to think about. So if we can get that knowledge penetrated into the rest of the village. So plastics, of course, is one big part of waste management, but then there's also organic waste that's generated, which is the food scraps, vegetable peels, fruit peels. This can go into a small biogas plant and can be a science experiment, a science, lesson in itself for the school. And there's a step-by-step way of building your own biogas plant. And then what are the different kinds of plastics that are out there? This can be a really interesting game that can be organized. We've done those in some of the urban schools that we've worked in. In fact, we even play these games with adults to get them interested in waste and waste management. So we need to see what are the different elements we can bring in there for teachers to be excited and for children to be excited about waste management. In school, you're taught about the red light is for stop, and the green light is for go, and the orange is for, wait. Why can't we teach that or some, in a more exciting way to children for segregation of waste? The green bin is for organics, the blue for recyclables, and the red for household hazardous. This is how you separate it. So that's the kind of cultural change we want to bring through this program into the schools, into the teachers, students, and then through them into the community. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's great background for everybody. And that hits on a few of the other questions we were getting from the participants. I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit about things you've done in the past in other schools, in urban areas, and even with adults, talking about games and incentives. And maybe if you can share a little bit more about what has worked in the past, and maybe people can use that as a jumping off point potentially for in their ideas, just to understand in terms of where you've seen success with behavior change in your other programs.
Sure. So with behavior change, what we've seen has worked is where there's direct communication, where there's a person who's talking. we've had print media and radio campaigns, and all of that has helped. But the most impactful has been where you have a person who's talking to another person about waste management, about separation of waste, and not just what you need to do, but why you need to do it. We've seen that when you go around telling people what to do, or separate your waste, that's the new law. People are like, why should we bother? Who's this? Why? What do you mean? Who's going to get this waste? Why is it my job? But if you explain to them why they need to do it, and it's not such a, most people see the rationale behind it and are willing to, you know, do it because it's almost intuitive, right? All the human made stuff goes in one bin, all the organic natural stuff goes in another, and all the stuff that you don't want to handle, that's going to cause some damage to you or someone else, goes in the third. It's really simple, logical, but we're still not doing it. So if we can explain to students, to teachers, to children, to their parents, just why we need to do this, we think that, and of course what we need to do, then I think the rest of it becomes easier. So as
And
far
I
as
think the why,
yeah.
sorry,
Hmm.
and the why, of course, has a lot of explaining about the downstream impact, right? Environmental, social, on the people who are handling the waste. And that often is the most powerful visual. When someone opens up your bin of mixed waste and empties it out, and you see someone else having to put that waste in their bin,
Oops,
Oops.
you're paused. We lost you. Um,
Okay. I so I think maybe I'll fill in what you was trying to say.
sure.
So it's powerful when you have someone, uh, the visual of knowing that your mixed waste is
hands
causing
in
damage.
make.
Okay, I think Gauri's still there. Yeah.
Oh, are you back, Gori? There we go.
Okay, I'm not sure how much was heard, but
I
Um.
think we lost you pretty early,
Yeah.
but you were speaking about the stream.
yeah. So I was talking about the working conditions of the people
Oh,
Oh, we lost
sorry,
her.
Gori. I think it's a bit in and out. So,
Yeah.
Natasha, I know you were
Sure. Yeah.
expanding.
Yes. So the visual of
who are
having of
handling.
seeing someone,
I think I'm lost again.
sanitation staff using their hands to collect mixed waste, or to have to separate it, or to have to handle it, that in itself, when people see that, it does impact them. They do realize that what they're doing, if they just made a slight change, it could make things so much better for the sanitation staff thereafter. When we show them piles of waste that are lying just outside their village or city area, we call it a landfill, but it's not. It's a dump site. So when we show them pictures of dump sites, people do realize that this is something that they're contributing to. So when we explain this, when there is a visual communication of the impact that their current behavior is having, and also visual communication of what it could be like if they just make this small incremental change of separating their waste and storing it and not dumping it outside, that really we found has motivated residents to separate. Of course, we've had like this uh, mime person, like Junior Charlie, who mimes and creates this very entertaining, exciting little drama thing on the street, so people look out of their windows and want to know what's going on. So that there's that angle to getting people's interest. There are also stickers and posters that we use more so stickers, not flyers, because stickers can be stuck and then they remain for a while. So uh, we don't want to generate more waste whilst getting awareness about waste management out there. Yeah, so these have been the basic things that really work. um, Giving off one bag, we've seen those who do start separating waste and storing it and doing the right thing, we reward them by giving them a bag for dry waste collection. It's nicely branded, it's a nice looking bag, so that continues the motivation to separate waste. So
Mm.
there are two components, right? There's the awareness. So one is to know what you need to do and why you need to do it. And the other is the motivation to continue doing it, to be part of
Mhm.
this program. So we have to think of two areas while trying to bring about behavior change in
Right.
residents. And the three types of behavior change that we bring out in urban areas is, one is to separate your waste at source, really to just know that that waste is in these three categories and they have to be kept separate. The second is to not dump it outside at street corners or wherever the usual dumping used to happen before, but to keep it with yourself and to give it only to the vehicle when it comes for doorstep collection. You may have a daily doorstep collection, you may have an alternate day doorstep collection service, or you may have a service that gives you daily collection of organics, but once in twice in a week collection of recyclables. So getting that behavior change is the second one. And the third one is really being respectful towards the sanitation staff or the waste picker or whoever it is that comes to service your home for waste management or waste
Mhm.
collection. So these are the three behavior changes that we need to get residents to start doing.
And that will be similar in the rural areas. And
It
so the
would, yes.
schools are you're hoping that's a channel or a vehicle for some of those changes to go through the community as well, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
That's great. That's so much amazing information about examples of what's worked, incentives, things that you guys have tried and the successes you've had with your current programs. We only have a few more minutes left, so I'd love to jump to the final theme that I want to cover with you before we send everybody off to brainstorm and work through their solutions and ideas. And that is just to speak a little bit about what you have coming up next, because you have some news about how these ideas might be implemented in the next in the short-term future, and also just about CARPE and anything we should know about your structure and your current funding, or any kind of constraints in terms of feasibility that you want people to be aware of as they think through their ideas.
All right. So I think I'll first tell you about the structure. CARPE, the Center for Applied Research and People's Engagement, and Civic Response Team. These are two sister concerns. One is a not-for-profit, one is a partnership firm, which is a for-profit. We work through grants, which come through CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility funding, for some projects. And a lot of our projects are direct contracts with the government. So the government sees value in the services we provide and they contract us and they pay us. So this is how we're structured. And now a new source of revenue, in some ways, not for us really, but to build sustainability into the systems that we build, is also through EPR, which is something we're exploring. And Unilever has played a role in this area. So that's the structure, and we have the team. We have program managers and program coordinators, and we have field staff that are trained on training others on segregation of waste at source and route mapping and route planning and the principles. We call it the bottom line, BOTAM, bottom line, the baseline assessments, training, orientation and training, route mapping, awareness campaigns, and monitoring and data collection. So that's the bottom line. That's how we go into areas and change the way municipal waste is being managed. So that's our structure. And to answer your other question about what we're looking forward to right now, right?
Yeah, in terms of the next steps that are coming up, and anything people should know about what their ideas, how they might be used, or
definitely. So far, like I said, we've been working in urban areas and we've been doing more and more urban local bodies, but now the government is really pushing us to start working in the rural areas, which is really, while we know basically how this works, it is a new geography for us. So up until now it was just conversation, but now we have a letter of intent, and very soon it will turn into an MOU, and we will really be actually going out on field and implementing waste management across villages. We start with 19 villages in this area. They've been selected already as the pilot, and so we'll work with 50 schools that are from these villages, and then we use, in all the work that we've done so far, we've always had pilots to teach us, where we've collected data, we've seen the impact of different kinds of interventions, and then selected the best combination, and then gone phase wise to horizontally deploy. And so that's what we'll be doing. It will be happening this year. And what we're looking forward to from the team out here, the 400 or 800 people that are part of this program, is any new ideas and new perspectives. We've been working a certain way, and we always try to keep our mind open, and we always try to reinvent, or challenge ourselves to think differently about the problem that we're looking at. But I think if there are so many perspectives out there, we really look forward to hearing your views and your ideas and how you would look at this problem. Building the awareness communication piece, what that would look like, something different than what we've been doing so far. If there are ideas around that, that would be great. We're thinking there needs to be an angle of competition. We try to gamify, compliance instead of making it oh, you should do this. But how do we get people excited about being part of this program? So how do we gamify it? If we can have ideas around that. Data collection and data management has been a big part of what we do. And if there's any information about how we can use technology to do this better, smarter, that would be a great help as well. So that's what we're looking at. Yeah, and if anyone's interested in coming down here and working with us on ground, on field to make this happen, we'd be most happy, and we'd welcome them. So yeah, that I think that's what I have to say. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Natasha and Gauri, for all of that amazing information and background and context to help everybody kick off their ideas in the next hour and a half. I know that you guys watching might have questions, and we can't cover all of the details, but we trust you to work with the information you have and come up with some great ideas. Don't be specific. Get started to create some new ways of looking at things. Remember, there is information in the challenge. A couple more details in the Ask Natasha Slack channel, but we encourage you to not spend too much time there. We want you to go to your team channels and really get started right away and start moving through the challenge, because the next will very quick. Also, we want you to keep an eye on the announcements channel, because that's where you'll see the notifications about when to move on to the next phase, and that will keep you of timing. And we're so excited to get started. And thank you, Gauri and Natasha, so much for your time and for sharing this challenge with everybody.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody. And like Daniel said, we really just have to jump in now with whatever we know and build solutions. That's how we make progress. So all the best. Yeah.
Amazing. No time like the present. Yes. So have fun, everybody. We'll see you in Slack, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.